G'day folks, it's the Maple Monkey here again with another live stream for you, and this time we've got a luminary of the homebrew world here with us. So we've got Dave Amarasinghe. Am I getting that
Yeah.
correct? Or some of you might know him as diversionArchitect, and yeah, he's a big wig in the in the world of the Marvel United homebrew. Very small ecosystem we've got here, but he's been doing a lot of great work for it, and a lot of the stuff we've got happening in homebrew is thanks to people like Dave and Helios 23. These guys have been really generous in not just creating stuff for themselves and having fun with it and putting it out there, but really giving a lot to the community, giving in terms of like tools and advice about how to get into this stuff if you want to start doing it yourself as well. So yeah. Oh, hello, hey Nelly and Sin as well. Hey guys, how you going? Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the chat, and yeah, feel free to put your input in and ask questions and that sort of stuff as well as we go through. So yeah, so Dave, so just quickly, some of the things, if you're not too familiar with Dave, he's got projects like he's been working on the Age of Apocalypse. That's a series of comics that are getting a bit of a run in the new season 3 of Marvel United, and Dave's sort of filled in the gaps with some of the heroes and villains that we aren't getting in that particular set of models and stuff. He's putting together some of that stuff. He's put together a kind of like a what's the word? Sinister Six sort of variant called the Rogues Gallery, where you can sort of pull characters from any part of your imagination and put them in there and make up your own ones as well, and sort of mix and match the teams. He's done some stuff for the teamwork cards, but he's also put together the InDesign templates. He's done the wiki. You need to have a holiday, Dave. I think he hasn't done the wiki, but he's gone to the Marvel United wiki, and he's really sort of fleshed out and set up the homebrew section there for people to be able to share their stuff there as well. So lots of stuff going on. But Dave, and I know there's lots of stuff you want to sort of talk to us about and share and that sort of thing as well. But I thought maybe we'd start with just quickly, like, what was it, just so people can sort of get a sense for how they can get into this stuff. Like, where did you start with homebrew? Like, do you have much experience before Marvel United, like designing things, using design, that sort of stuff, or making other modes for other games and that sort of thing as well? Or is Marvel United your first sort of experience with that?
So I've kind of played around with like I'm a longtime role player, so like RPGs, tabletop RPG stuff.
Okay. Yep.
And so I've GM'd a lot, and so like kind of building a game out of that is not too to me. But but I mean, really, what got me started was I was really excited about Marvel United Season 3, and I started building. This was a while ago, if you remember. There was the X-Men animated thing. And I started building a little campaign just to kind of celebrate the X-Men in Microsoft Word, because that's the software that I knew how to use. And realizing some restrictions in that is what ended up leading me to InDesign. And I was totally new at it. That was like a brand new thing. And kind of my way of reconciling the fact that I'm still really excited about Marvel United, but I was sad to be missing some, like, to me, really iconic characters out of a set that I was hoping to see, was to make my own villains. And that was because I saw you and your work on Cameron Hodge.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, well, let me just make it. And that really got me back into being excited for what's coming, even though they weren't making the stuff I was hoping to see.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool, because it's that's funny. It's like, because I sort of, you put that, we put all this stuff out there where, we make a character and we think, is anyone going to pay attention? Anyone even going to see this stuff? Or, are people going to like it or whatever? And you put it out there. And I think that was sort of similar with Cameron Hodge. I was really excited with the guys in the Discord, because I think I'd been reading that they'd been talking to me about X Factor or something, and that got me interested in reading the comics. And then through that, I discovered Cameron Hodge. And then as they were releasing tidbits about like how the different villains were going to work in this new season 3. Some of the designs and the way they played around with the storyline, or like Dakan, being a villain that uses hero cards or something. No, hold on. I think it's Captain Fake America. What's his name? US agent or whatever.
Yes, US
I think
agent.
I think he kind of uses hero cards, like a hero deck almost, in his villain mode or something. And then I think Dakan also, he sort of competes with you as a hero, maybe similar to Sinister. What's his name? Dr. Octopus, Spider-Man, Superior Spider-Man. So seeing all that stuff really sort of excited me, and that's, I think, where that idea of like, oh, maybe you could do something with Cameron Hodge where you've got to undo everything in the storyline, and so that came from there. And so, long story short, like, I put him out not knowing, what was going on. So it's really cool to hear that inspired you, because then what I love is like how much inspiration you've given to other people. Like, you see all the all the people making designs and stuff now, like Kanji Studios using your InDesign stuff to make all those great villains that everyone's really been appreciating, and like there's some really great designs too, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's really good. That's really I'm really happy to hear that, like, I was able to help sort of be a little part of that, like a footstep in sort of building this big homebrew world sort of thing. Yeah, so that's really cool. Nelly says Diversion puts on the Thanos glove and says, yeah, fine, I'll do it myself. Yeah, that's right. It's it's like all those characters, that we're like, oh, we didn't get this, we didn't get that. Same thing that Kanji's done, right? He's gone like, oh, well, we didn't get Mephisto. All right, I'll do it myself, So yeah, that's cool. Yep. Very cool, very cool. Awesome. So and what was interesting too, because I do remember that, and I haven't really gone back and given that the look at that I probably need to go back and look at because I do love my X-Men. A lot of my X-Men knowledge comes from the animated series, right? But that's interesting that you said that you've got that background in role playing, and that you've been a GM as well. And I think that's an interesting sort of transferable skill. I think like people who've maybe done that and had to think about how it's almost like story building or writing a novel, right? Like how to craft for scenario, or maybe how to set it up so that you can have the branching part, how do you get a story that's satisfying, keep going and that sort of stuff. And I think there's a part of that in game design, I guess, too, because you're trying to build the arc of like what's going to be a satisfying game, like designing characters. And I don't think this is something that I'm just thinking about now, but I don't think I've really been very thoughtful about it in my own designs. But that idea of like, how do you design stuff? It's fun to come up with cool mechanics and cool ideas and things like that, but it's like, do they build a satisfying arc in the game? Like, is this going to be fun at the beginning? Is this going to be fun at the end? And yeah, that's an interesting thing too. Like, so having that background maybe can be quite helpful, and I guess vice versa. Like if you guys are having fun dabbling in homebrew and that sort of thing, it's like, if you're also into role playing and that sort of thing, maybe that's something you haven't tried, like GMing before. Like maybe now you might have some of the skills that you could transfer to that. That's pretty cool. Yeah,
definitely transferable. One other thing that's kind of fun that is also very transferable is GMing and prepping and running games like that is also very similar to teaching. You'll see a lot of similarities there.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Maybe that might turn me off GMing because. No, that's cool. Yeah. So, because you've got that academic background as well, right? So yes, we've both got that sort of in common. That's that's interesting. That's true actually. Yeah. Because that's something I've never done. I've never done the GMing side of. I'm trying to think. I don't think I have. No. I've back in my sort of teenage years, I used to sort of do a bit of Warhammer fantasy role play, and I think we did a little bit of Shadowrun and stuff with some of my mates and stuff. And we were lucky; we had a really invested, really good GM. Pat, if you're out there, mate, he was great. But his Warhammer role plays were like, man, he put so much thought into those. They were like a true novel, they were really, really good. So Yeah. And we did our best to like mess with his scenarios and stuff like that, but they always held up, so that was good. Can confirm jamming skills help. So yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Very true, Nelly. Very true. Well, awesome. Well, so I guess maybe what I'd like to do first, if you don't mind, Dave, I might go through some of those things I ran through before, just so I can show folks what it is we're talking about with some of the stuff that you've put together and that sort of thing. So we'll just do a sort of a bit of an overview, a bit of a glance through and look at some of these things you've built out. And then maybe we'll have a discussion and you can talk about, because the other thing I want to do is talk about your process, how you think about designing, like what's your goals, like what are you trying to get out of doing this and that sort of stuff, and you can talk us through some of that stuff as well. But maybe let's have just a quick look now. Dave and I, we did a little bit of practice here. I'm sure I'm going to mess this up again, but we're going to try and show off. This is something I've been wanting to show. I can't remember if I've shown this on a live stream before, but I want to actually, I keep mentioning the Marvel United Wiki in my videos and that sort of thing, and what a useful resource is. And this is something that Dave has put a lot of work into, and then others have gone in and been able to use it. So Nelly, who's in the chat there, Nelly has, I think he's just, congratulations to Nelly. He just finished putting all of his stuff up there. It took him ages. Nice. He's got so much stuff that he's been creating, but he had a little congratulatory post the other day that said like he'd put all all of his stuff up to date, at least into the wiki. So that's pretty cool. So I thought we can have a look at that. So I'm going to just set my screen up a little bit so that we can see that a bit more. And then in theory, I'll just do this. In theory, if we've got a cat about to jump up on the computer. We could have technical difficulties in a second. In theory, I should be able to present. This says, hold on, just before I do this, Nelly says, I still think diversion moved to the wiki because I kept making him post stuff. Yeah. That's ulterior motive. Well, let's have a look here. So for those interested, share screen and share screen will go entire screen. This looks like it's correct. Click on this. So maybe you guys can confirm if you can see. I've got now a little window, so you should still be able to see the chat here. So if you're making really funny comments, you can still see your funny comments. But we've got the wiki here. So what I actually want to do is we'll start with the wiki here. So this is the actual homepage for the Marvel United Wiki, and this is actually just a great resource. You can find things like the rules, getting started advice, how you can contribute to. Oh no, hold on. This is the rules of the wiki. My apologies. But if you want to sort of be involved in the wiki, this is sort of like some instructional sort of stuff here, helpful stuff here. You've got categories like heroes, villains, anti-heroes. You can see here there's characters, products. You can go through, have a look at the different things you can get for the game. It's got the rules here. You've got access to those. Frequently asked questions. I think this is maybe like a community frequently asked questions, but also I wonder if they've got links to the official, because I think they've just put out some official FAQs out as well. So all of that's there. But now Dave's really been building out this homebrew section. And is that right, Dave? You sort of reached out to them and they sort of said, yeah, go for it, sort of thing. Like you can sort of do what you like in the homebrew section.
An important thing to me was to be able to have it accessible on this top bar. And that's something you can only do as an admin. So I had to reach out to them. Awesome. But a lot of the stuff you can do just as a user. You just access it and you can compile and add things to the wiki by yourself.
Yeah. For sure. I was going to do a separate video, but I could almost, I won't go too much into it, but I could almost do a lot of that just in this little video itself, because we're here. So if we have a look, this is the homebrew section. So you've got resources, Marvel, non-Marvel, and paid access, because there are some folks who have been making some characters and content and stuff, but like they put it on their, I don't know whether it's like a Patreon or an Etsy or something like that. So I think, Dave, you'd be, hopefully I'm not putting words in your mouth, but you sort of like the idea that sort of most of this stuff that we're putting out there is, just for people for free. We want people to be able to sort of access it and just have fun with it, sort of thing. So we sort of wanted to make sure that this stuff was still available for people, but we didn't want it to be sort of mixed in here. So people were thinking they sort of had to pay for most of this stuff. Does that sound about right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we have a quick look here, let's me just hovering over this thing here. You can see there's tons of stuff in here. So there's like villains and heroes, a pretty big mix of both here. So these are all things, but if you want these ones, I think there's like a cost involved sort of thing. You have to sort of go in and do that. But otherwise, we've got now. This is a very useful thing here. This is the templates, the homebrew resources. So we have Dave, your InDesign templates, Helios 23s, and NellyNel, you've been working on this a lot too. These are the Photoshop templates. And you can see here that this is for villains, heroes, locations. So there's a lot of different things. So it's not just heroes, not just villains. We've got a lot of templates now going for a lot of that stuff there. Plus your rogues gallery is part of that as well, isn't it, in the InDesign stuff. So and I like this little section here. Hopefully we can build this out a bit more too, but where we can highlight some of the artists that have been helping us out with the projects and get them a little bit more recognition and hopefully get a bit more business coming their way too, sort of thing. So Nico Moose has been really helpful with the, especially the TMNT expansion. So if you guys have been checking that out, and there's I think maybe I'm not sure, there's a second group order going with that on BGG. It might have finished up. I'm not sure. You might still be able to jump on that, but you can always sort of all get their stuff. You can print it off yourself as well, sort of thing. But Nico Moose has been doing the art, I think, especially for the second round of characters with that. I just finished reading the Last Ronin, Dave, and that was a lot of fun. So now I'm really excited to try Last Ronin in the game, sort of thing. So especially Commander solo mode, where you have you build your deck with the other turtles, and they're like the voices in the background, sort of thing. That'd be cool. So we've got those there, and then if we go in and have a look, we've got the non-Marvel stuff. So NellyNel, this is his home, really. He's pretty much responsible for probably 95% of it, and then his roommate Nor is probably responsible for the other part. He's got the Marvel vs. Capcom, and he's what else? He's just done. He's doing some Bloodborne stuff. We'll have to put his Bloodborne stuff in there, I think. We'll get that stuff in there soon. But we've got Castlevania, My Hero, Naruto, One Piece, Helios 23's big section there. Although myself and NellyNel have sort of been helping him with it, but really the not even the lion's share. What would you say? The dragon's share, the dragon's hoard worth of stuff there has been created by Helios. But if we have a look, say for example at the My Hero Academia thing, if we click in here, you can see there's usually like some sort of a home page here where you can sort of access the Google Drives or the tabletop simulator links for those heroes, and that's a big useful thing too, isn't it? The tabletop simulator stuff, so people can try before they sort of print stuff out. And then you can see here you've got access to all these characters. So if we go to Can't Stop Twinkling or Red Riot, that will take you to their files, or I think actually in Nelly's case, this says, sorry, Nelly, hold on, Sin's saying, I remember you showing this off during your want to design your own cards bit. Oh, cool. So I have shown this off a bit before. That's cool. And I want to get the TMNT expansion, but I never seem to have the funds for it. Yeah.
So actually, speaking of that, one thing that we've been kind of like looking into is how to make it more that you can just order a set of things on your own. And so we're looking into print and play and seeing about like just ordering our own dashboards. And so that way you don't necessarily have to be a part of a group order. You could just order. And I think they run about like under $4 per dashboard. So it's not prohibitive. And that way you can just order a couple of dashboards and not have to be upset that you missed out on a group order.
Yeah, for sure. So those ones I've been showing off lately, like that. Just the other night, I did Kurogiri. Totally didn't cheat in that game, by the way. Kurogiri. That's like a thick cardboard one that we got printed off from print and play, and it's great quality. I'm happy with it, and it wasn't too expensive. I ordered a whole bunch sort of at once, so I could sort of make it even more sort of cost effective sort of thing with the shipping and that sort of thing as well. So that's being in Australia, it's the shipping is a bit of a killer, but if you're in the States especially, like it's super good. So Sin saying I'm in the UK, it would be most cost effective to get the whole bundle. Yeah, that's true. So if we have a look, if we click on Gale Force here, a lot of us have built out either pages here where we give like the stats and things like that. I really like that Nelly's done these like stat charts or whatever they are here, I guess, and a bit of background and that sort of thing as well. But if we go back to Homebrew and we go to the Marvel stuff, we can see a lot of what Dave's been working on here. So his Rogues Gallery, his Age of Apocalypse sort of stuff as well. But there's another place, if you're looking for the Marvel stuff, if you just click on Homebrew itself, that will take you to the big sort of parent page, and that's got all of the things like you've got the pro and anti-registration Civil War. We've got the Rogues Gallery again. We've got that. There's that animated season 1. We've got, this is really cool here. We've got all these heroes here. So these are all heroes from across the community that are not, there's no payment for these ones, which is cool. And it's really cool to see some like variants too. Like, so we've got, I've just done the Sentinel. So I'd like to see maybe other people's take on the Sentinels, because I thought when I was coming up with the ideas for it, because I was trying to base it around the Marvel vs. Capcom one, I was like, okay, now there's so many good ideas here, but like I'll stick to my ethos of, with Marvel vs. Capcom, we sort of base things on the moves in the game. But there's so many cool things you could do with like some sort of programming aspect, or like resource generating. You've got to power them up, or the fact that in that movie they're sort of super adaptable, and every time the mutants do something against them, they sort of adapt and overcome whatever the mutant powers are and stuff. So there's so many different things you could do with the Sentinels. I'd like to see other people's takes on like Sentinel heroes. We've also got the Sentinel battle too, don't we? Is that in here? I don't know if the Sentinel battle's in here by Simon Templar. Maybe not. But then you can see this is sort of like the Kanji section. He's got lots of his heroes and stuff. Villains and stuff here. But we've got lots of cool villains. Andrew Fantasia's Hydro Man is there. We've got Cameron Hodge. Helios 23's done a really cool Morgan Le Fay. It's funny actually. We've got Brute Force down here too, plus the Age of Apocalypse. We've got all that other things down here. The other non-Marvel stuff is down here as well. Where's this one? I've printed off some tabs, not tabs, but those like dividers you put in when you're storing your cards and stuff. I did a whole bunch of those recently. I accidentally wrote Negative Man for Mr. Negative, so he's got the wrong title. So he's Negative Man now. So anyway, I'm like, oh damn it! I noticed that when I got it. I was like, oh whoops. Anyway, so that's really cool. So this is this homebrew section. So you can see it's a really good way. It's all sort of super accessible. You can just find it easily on this, like Dave said, on the top bar here. And then if you are someone who is creating stuff, all you need to do is go up here to this little 3-dot thing here and just say add new page. You can create a page, add the links to these different things, and I might go through in another video and take us through like how to put the links into the different pages and sort of set it up so you sort of like your thing sits in there and is accessible via different paths and stuff. But that's really cool. So I wanted to show off that wiki project. While we're in here, I also wanted to show off the Rogues Gallery, so to explain to those folks who might have missed videos with that. So this is a whole system that Dave's created where he's got like a Sinister Six mode that you sort of can build out with any villains you like from a huge cast that he and Kanji have created. So you can see he's got this Dave had this huge big initial list of characters from different sort of factions. Then he's got some additional just random ones you can chuck in. Then there's all these packs that have been added by Dave and Kanji as well, so with different themes, so Civil War and Hydra, and I've put in a little Cameron Hodge. I think I'd like to do a Hydro Man as well. We'll put a Hydro Man in there at some stage. I might get in touch with Andrew and sort of get some input from him and what he'd like to see in that version there, sort of thing. But you can see there's lots of different things. We've got the Sentinels, the Upstarts, so that's a really cool mode there as well. And what's really cool is that you also, and I wonder if you're putting together the X-Men thing in Word helps you, work towards this, because you've got your rule book. Let me see if I can click on this without messing around too much. Yeah, here we go. So you've actually got this really cool, like, Marvel United style rulebook that you've created. And do you have a template for building rulebooks now since you built this?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really cool as well. So yeah, so lots of cool things there. You also built the, like we mentioned before, like variant like cards for those heroes who have team cards, like the Fantastic Four or Alpha Flight, and given them cards to replace those to sort of make them more of a character you can use on their own, sort of thing, and that sort of thing as well. But yeah, that's cool. So I just wanted to show that sort of stuff off. I know I've been sort of rabbiting on quite a bit, so we'll turn things over to Dave in just a second, but I'm just going to slide this across here. I'll stop sharing. And hopefully that won't shut the stream down. There we go. Very cool. But I just wanted to show folks, a bit of that stuff, like, rather than just talking about, like, actually, like, see some of those different places and that sort of thing we were talking about. But just to give people a sense of what it is that you have created and how much stuff there is out there that you've been working on. But now I thought I'll turn things over to you, and we can basically just talk about anything you want to talk about in terms of, like, your process, like whether it's like, what do you do when you start thinking about designing a villain or designing a hero, and some of the, because I know you also have some things that you want to sort of get out there, like in terms of like you've been talking about, like helping people get set up and contacting artists or using 3D sculptors and that sort of things as well. So yeah, so over to you, Dave. What do you want to talk about?
So well, I guess the first thing that I really like to do whenever I'm going to work on something like this is I go back to the comics, because that's something that I really think is important to try and express what the character's all about. And so that's kind of my first, like, principle is, go back to the comics and make sure that you're telling their story as authentically as you can within the confines of the game interface. And then the second thing I really like to do is I try to make sure that if I'm adding something to the game, it's doing something that hopefully hasn't been done before. That's an important element to me. So, like, my first villain that I ended up making was Sugar Man, and so I wanted to have the infiltration feel of that comic, and so I did that with heroic action tokens being something that are kind of like protecting you from being found and then damaged.
Nice. Yeah.
So that was that thing, and then so each of my villains, especially, I think, really showcase that hopefully well, with like where Abyss is himself a location, because you can go into him as characters got pulled into him during the comic run. And then Mikhail, I was actually really struggling with how I would design Mikhail, because power-wise, he's kind of all over the place. He's kind of like Scarlet Witch, where it's like not super well defined what exactly he can do. He can do anything. Thank you, Nelly. I really like him.
I was going to say, just that's the other thing too. Like that, like you talk about you wanting to sort of create those like unique things that hadn't been done before, but also capture the feel of whatever it is from the comic you're trying to do. And yeah, that Abyss one, I mean, Sugar Man, very cool as well. Like, I think you captured that, but like Abyss was the one where, like, it just blew a lot of our minds. It was like such a cool idea. So yeah. And Sin's just saying, I want to do Metal Gear United, kind of waiting for the Metal Gear Solid board game for Visual Aid. Okay. Yeah. And thinking of doing Mortal Kombat too. Well, you know what? With Mortal Kombat, there are models being made by Big Head Chibis. So that's one thing that's definitely, like, you'd have things that people would be able to use for it. But Norlith is starting to work on some Mortal Kombat stuff too in the Discord. So if you want to get together, share ideas, help each other out with that. That's another thing too, because someone up in the comments there, I think Nelly was saying, giving advice to Syn to say, just give it a shot. The templates make it easy, and that's easy enough to say, because if you don't have any idea how to use the template, sometimes that can be a bit hard. But his advice there about going into the Discord and just talking to other people and getting their advice and getting them to help you. Everyone's like super helpful and friendly in there. And I know that yourself, Dave, and Helios really gave of your time to sort of help me when I was still learning the ropes and stuff there too. So Syn, yeah, definitely, like my advice is, yeah, you use the folks in the Discord as a resource there to help you out with that. And yeah, that's pretty cool. But sorry, Dave, but I've interrupted you there, so I just wanted to highlight that too. But yeah, this was cool.
I'll just mention, Syn asked about a link on the Discord. We'll definitely make sure that we have it at least in a comment on this video.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, also, like, if you're intimidated of like communicating via text, like a lot of us are free to like be on a call and like work with you as you're working on it and learning how to use the templates and stuff. We're happy to do that.
Yeah, that was a big help with Helios. Helios gave up like an evening. It was a long evening, I think, for him to help me sort of work through the Photoshop process and that sort of thing. But I really appreciate that, because it was a big sort of breakthrough for me. Like, I'd been sort of fumbling around a bit myself, sort of thing, but he he really helped do that, and then I was able to go back myself, sort of thing, and have a bit of help with that. And then you did something similar with the InDesign for us as well. We had several. I think it took me several lessons because it was so long in between InDesign things. I think that I'd been working on that I needed a couple of catch ups, but that was good. Yeah. So yeah. But yeah, your design certainly captured that. And that's always fun, isn't it? Like coming up with something to like represent something thematically in this, relatively abstract game system, and then it's kind of half the fun is seeing if people catch what are you trying to put across with this theme. Like, why does Vega have all these stars on his dashboard, and then why can you take them off with a punch or a star like during the game before he's vulnerable and stuff like that. So I'm wondering if people will see like, what am I trying to get across with Vega's fight, when you see him released and that sort of stuff as well. So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and then I was gonna say with Mikhail, one of the things I really wanted to do was kind of play around with like multiple uses of a card. So I'm a fan of Button Shy Games. They're a company. And they do a lot of things where everything's only on 18 cards, and so they sometimes have to get more use out of a single card than you would normally do. And so my Mikhail threat cards on the back have an extra mechanic. So if a threat card is flipped and slid under something, you can then use that interaction that's on that card. And so like that was my new introduction thing with that. And I was really, really pleased with how Mikhail ended up shaking out. That's often the case for me, is like Mikhail was like really special to me because he was so difficult for me to like nail down like how I wanted him to function mechanically. But I really, really enjoy how he ended up being, because he's a master manipulator, so he doesn't really do much to you directly. A lot of the time he kind of relies on other things, but he prevents you from being heroic by undermining your faith in yourself, which is a lot of fun. And Mondo was another one where I had really struggled with Mondo, trying to get him. He's a hero character, of getting him to where I felt like he was really expressing something and doing something really different. So, oops, my headphone there.
That's so good.
But yeah, like I wanted him to feel like something that other people just don't have. His ability to kind of move through things, and then also that matter absorption, where it's like, you draw up some extra cards and then you've got some new decisions to make with that, because he absorbs from the environment around him. So it's not a predictable thing. It'll be whatever you get, which I thought was a lot of fun.
And it captures that adaptability of him. I think that's something that's really interesting. Like it was seeing heroes like that, and I think you and Nelly both have that same thing of like trying to do things. And I guess we all, when we're designing our homebrew, a lot of us would be trying to sort of do things that haven't been seen before to make it worthwhile, to sort of like, why would I try this homebrew character out, or why, because it's doing something different. And I think with my Marvel vs. Capcom stuff, my sort of ethos there has been, they were my sort of, not my first homebrew designs, but like my first little project. And with that, I really didn't want to go too over the top. I think I just made, with a lot of help, I just made Cameron Hodge, and he was very convoluted and complex and that sort of stuff. So I wanted to sort of create some more simple stuff. And so my theme with them was just to sort of try and capture the video game, capture the because they've all got different moves in the video game. So I basically just like pick a card for each video game, for each attack, major attack that they had, and that would be their thing. Try and give them some stats, actions based on their stuff there, and that's been fun to do. But like, I don't think they're very dynamic. There are a lot of abilities within there that I've taken that are just sort of like, a stun this, or stuff that we've seen before in other characters. So I think hopefully they're fun for people to use because they sort of reminiscent of the game, and they capture that sort of stuff. But I don't think they're necessarily revolutionary. But I've been wanting to, so I'm sort of finishing that project off, and now I'm sort of trying to like look at, when I'm designing stuff, I'm trying to sort of take on board some of the advice that you and that Nelly have been giving us, like from that last video I had with him as well, that chat with him and chatting with you. So like with Conan, he was sort of like one of my first hero, because it's fairly, I mean, they're very difficult to make, but like it's fairly easy to have to be clever and different with the villains, right? Because that's what it's all about. You want to sort of create some sort of interesting arc with the villain, but with the heroes, it's kind of hard with the deck. So Conan was one that I really tried to sort of create something like you guys have done, where the deck plays in a particular style. Like Mondo's got that thing where, like, okay, so you sort of built into his cards lots of different symbols to make that card have lots of variability every time you play, sort of thing. And Nelly's got sort of what's his name, Luffy, where he's got the different gears he goes through, and what you're trying to do is get to a point where you can have all the gears going off at once. Or Deku, where he can build up in power to then like smash himself with his big All Might punch sort of thing, but then it leaves him damaged and all that sort of stuff. So it really captures how you play him. Like, so you sort of like, you have to sort of pace yourself like Deku does, where he doesn't go all out, he analyzes things, so you're not using all your actions as you play through the game. You're sort of like pacing yourself, but then you sort of have a big punch in one turn, sort of maybe midway through or at the end, sort of thing. And so Conan, I tried to I wanted to have the riddle of steel in his in his thing. So I wanted to capture like, what is the riddle of steel? And there's all these different interpretations, but one that I've seen is that it's not that flesh is stronger, it's not that steel is stronger, it's not whatever. It's that the riddle of steel is that you yourself have to temper yourself like a blade by going through adversity to make yourself stronger and stuff like that. So I wanted that to be the thing where, and then it also allowed me to have a thing where Conan can sort of be that berserker that he is, that takes damage and then becomes stronger, sort of thing. So that riddle of steel then gives him a way to generate attack tokens, but then I also wanted to play off that, where then other cards allow you to do stuff with the tokens, like, so you can have better attacks, or you can trade the tokens in to shrug off damage and heal and that sort of thing as well. So I'm a bit worried that I haven't quite nailed the balance of him. He might be a bit too powerful. So I could go in and sort of tweak some of the abilities, just to sort of like, maybe not have it unlimited number of tokens that he can generate, or whatever it might be, maybe cap it at like 1 per turn or whatever it might be, or maybe he can only have a maximum number that he can have at once or something like that. But I'm happy with the fact that he sort of like has that token generating card that then other cards play off that sort of thing. So yeah, so that was really fun, is trying to find that unique way of telling the story of the character you want, and making the deck play in a unique way is interesting. So I think
I think heroes are, they appear to be a really easy thing to design, and they end up being a lot harder to design in ways that feel really like satisfying than I would have expected. Because
you can easily build an average hero, an uninteresting hero, but building a memorable hero that's the tricky part. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. That's cool. But yeah, so okay, so that's interesting. So I think that's like going back to the comics is a great place to start, right? Like whether it's villains or heroes, like what is it that you want to? What's the main sort of theme or thing you want to get across from, what is it that inspired you about that character or that story? What was memorable? And that's going to sort of come through, sort of thing. So I know that's with Cameron Hodge, like was reading those X Factor comics that sort of was the thing that, like, oh yeah, I want to capture that story. And then it's hard sometimes. You then want to build the entire story. You almost like
Right.
tell the story too linearly with your villain design too. So like that's an interesting thing too, is like,
That's
how
why
do you
you got
keep
to
it
make a
abstract
second
enough?
version,
Yeah,
a sequel battle.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, so that's cool. Let me see if I'm missing. Make them play true to the character without going overboard. Yeah, that's yeah. It's a fine balance sort of thing. Yeah. So that's cool.
Yeah, that's one thing that Marvel United has been really good for me in that, I mean, in addition, it's gotten me diving more into the comics than I've ever done before. But, I'm able to play, a family weight game with my family and friends and share with them these stories, that like play out at the table, and then I can kind of embellish on like, what was so cool about this in the comics.
Yeah, that's
which
cool.
is something I don't feel like I've done as well with any other like game that is like about an IP. I don't know that they've really told stories in a way that is as approachable and also reflective of the story that like the Marvel United does.
And it's interesting too. Like, I think these days where things are probably a little bit better, but like traditionally, like video games and probably board games, like IP stuff itself generally doesn't tend to be, like, the games themselves usually aren't great. So that's a barrier itself, is to getting people to, not only does it maybe not capture the story as well, but also like, is the game going to be that good that people are going to want to play it with you and that sort of thing. And I know everything's subjective and arguable. I guess there'd be a lot of people out there that Marvel United isn't for them, because it is a very sort of, like you said, family weight sort of game and stuff. But for me, it's like, it's such a good system. And one of the things I love about Homebrew too is that, like, I don't personally think there's many great, say, My Hero Academia games out there, but we have one now because we've got Marvel United, and we just slapped the My Hero stuff on it. And the same with One Piece.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's I think there's a fairly popular One Piece, at least at the moment, One Piece card game that's just hit, but I can't think of much else One Piece apart from like a One Piece Monopoly or something like that. So it's really cool that there's like a One Piece game. There's a Naruto game, there's Bloodborne, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's pretty cool as well. So that's another benefit of the homebrew sort of stuff as well. So yeah. What about your process of when you're designing a villain? Do you, like, how do you go about like the play testing and that sort of stuff to make do you have a particular thing that you do every time, or do you just kind of like play it and see who's available for play testing? And or do you start with 3 players and then go down to 2 and then go to 4 players, or is there any particular sort of thing you do with that?
So I generally enjoy Marvel United the most at 4 players and on heroic, and so that's almost always where I start my playtesting at. I have, in cases where I haven't been able to get together with a full group of people, I'll essentially 4-handed a game like that. And then I end up tweaking it down. One thing that is troublesome with that is that I don't really get to properly test 2-player, because 2-player, if you're playing on heroic, I don't know that I've ever won, because you run out of cards on both heroes. And so it's like, well, I don't have enough. I don't have punches left in both decks. It's game over. So that definitely is an issue with a 2-player heroic, which I'm hoping will get fixed with some of the team cards. I think the team decks give you a couple more cards, which hopefully will help kind of fill the gap for 2-player.
Yeah, that's interesting too, because I love using, as everyone on the channel knows, I love using my wilds. Like I always sort of play on the easiest mode sort of thing. But a lot of people do have a problem with I shouldn't say a problem, but you hear a lot of people that like to play heroic, and a lot of people that don't like the wilds diluting the feel of the heroes and that sort of stuff as well. And for me, I'm like, I don't care. They're doing a super punch. It's a wild. I'm going to play that card. But you're right. It's like you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So I think really the big thing with the wilds is then it doesn't feel like my turn impacts the next player, right? Because now whatever I put down, whatever I'm going to do on this turn is completely separate from you, because the next player can use whatever they want on the wilds.
Yeah.
Whereas where it's like, oh, well, I'm going to play a punch. Can you punch? Or are you stuck in a location that's going to be worthless to you? You really need a movement this turn. Okay, well then I'll have to adapt around that. Which I enjoy that puzzle.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about it from that perspective of that sort of, especially because I guess I tend to not play it very much co-op. Like I get some co-op play out of it, but a lot of it is solo sort of stuff. So future Dan's like, yeah, I'll take that wild, I can do something with it. But like, yeah, that idea of if you enjoy that sort of discussion and the puzzle and that sort of stuff, like it does sort of make it a bit of a moot point for that turn, doesn't it, sort of thing. So that's interesting. But I like what you were saying there, because I hadn't really thought, because I've been noticing that a lot of the stuff in season 3 is like, so here's these companions, they make it easier. Here's these equipment cards, they make it easier. Here's these team cards, they make it easier. All this sort of stuff, and yeah, they say like, okay, take out the double wilds if you're going to use some of this stuff or whatever. But a lot of it, doesn't seem like it brings it right back to sort of normal hard mode or whatever. But so I was thinking, oh, are people going to like having all of this like easy stuff added to it? But that's interesting what you said there, because what you can do is you can take out the wilds, put in something like the team deck sort of thing that still gives you that sense of like you can play a 2-player game now where it's a little bit easier, but you don't have to have the vanilla-ness of the wilds. You can still have that boost, that help, but it's equipment this time, or it's teams, and it gives you it in a still thematic way with usually specific symbols that aren't always going to be a wild. So you've still got to think, oh, okay, this equipment only gives me a move, or it only gives me a wild, so, or not a wild, whatever it might be. Like you've still got to think, okay, is this the time to play it, and that sort of thing. So that's interesting. So that's making me think a little bit differently about that aspect of the stuff. Like I was still excited about that stuff coming out, but yeah, seeing that as sort of almost like a replacement of the wilds for people that was the thing they didn't sort of enjoy about them. Yeah,
it reminds me a bit of there was a game, and the theme of the game is not great, but it was Whitechapel, Letters from Whitechapel, and it was a one versus many type game, and in the back of the book there were a bunch of things of like, hey, if it's too hard for the one player, add some of these things, and if it's too hard for the group's player, add some of these things. And I really think that Marvel United was kind of lacking that. It was like, hey, if this game mode or this villain or whatever is really crushing you, you really didn't have anything to do about that. It's like, oh, this is too hard, and I want to like soften this up. Like people complain about Green Goblin or whatever. But the only thing that existed so far was Danger Room in the First Class Kickstarter exclusive expansion.
Yeah.
And Danger Room, it doesn't make the game that much easier. It's because you're losing out on whatever other end of turn effect you would have gotten to get that. So I think that's good. I think having more things that you can add in both directions to kind of up the difficulty in one way and then soften things in another way, I think is really, really useful.
Yeah. Nelly says he's looking forward to everything. Yep. We'll take it all. But Danger Room, I remember I've used it a few times in streams, and so I think that's the only time. I don't think I use it generally in my own games, but like when I'm playing it on camera, I've used it a couple of times to try and show it off. And I think sometimes, maybe the first time I used it, I didn't end up using it because I was like, I don't want to I don't want to use that because the location effect is better or something, or it's too dangerous to stand there or something. And then I think in the next game I played, I think I had to like force myself to use it because I was like, I've got to use this, otherwise people aren't seeing the cards. But what was a shout out on this point? Shout out to Co-op Guild, Steve and Kim there. I think Steve has a little mode where, and I hadn't thought of doing this at all, and I don't know how balanced or how well it works. But hey, it's house ruling, have fun with it, sort of thing. But what he was saying is he uses the hero, the superhero cards. You have that the player versus player mode where you can have the villain using the super villain cards and the heroes teaming up to fight them, but then they get their little deck of, well, maybe one card or something of superhero cards. He was saying that one of the things he does to sort of sometimes make it easier is he'll just deal, I think he deals 2 cards to each player, and then they pick one, and then they get that one-off card during the game, sort of thing, is like a little bonus. So I guess it's a bit like having an equipment card or something like that isn't going to get recharged or whatever. So that's interesting. So I haven't really looked through those because I just kind of wrote that mode off, and I've got the cards, but I never really did anything with them because I thought, well, I'm never going to use this. I never play this.
That's a good idea, because having some way of softening things, I think, will let you be more comfortable with adding in a sentinel or 2 to your battle, right? Because if you're like me, most of the time when we're playing on heroic, like we're barely scraping the win, and so if that's the case, like I can't add the news reporters like identity crisis challenge thing. That's not going to work. But if I have something else to kind of bump us up a little bit, I can start considering these challenge modes more.
That's a good. Because you're right. I haven't used. And unless I've used it on the channel for like showing off, and I think I maybe once showed like the Sentinel, like the Sentinel challenge. I can't really think of. I don't think I've done the takeover challenge. I don't think I've done any of those other ones. I don't think I have. Because I'm just like, oh, that's going to make the game too hard. I'm not going to try that sort of thing. So Sin says it'll be a while before I get to play some of season 3, as I have a family friend who paints them. And also hope Spider-Geddon will be on Amazon before it arrives, so I can get them all done. Oh, okay, yeah, interesting. So you're saying, Sin, that you prefer to sort of like send them off, get them painted, because you don't like to play with them unpainted? Because I know that a lot of people have that little rule that they like to sort of challenge themselves to, and it's a way of making sure that they paint them, right? They don't let themselves play until they're painted. So, oh wow, okay. But well, good luck with that. Hopefully you can watch some of our videos and of the different folks, Kanji Studios and myself and stuff. In the meantime, you can live vicariously through us when season 3 gets here, sort of thing. But oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. I was gonna. I can't think of what I was something. We were talking about something. I think I had another thought that I was going to talk about, but I've rabbited on about something else. But yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So what were we just talking about? We've just been talking about the cards and the wilds and things like that.
I think we were getting to the process of like going through and going from like I have a thought in my head to here's a finished product looking thing. But yeah, so I go to the comics. I make sure that I've got a narrative arc that I want to tell out of that, which it's definitely a challenge sometimes trying to convey that. But I like it because what it kind of tells to me is like it's like a what if, right? Because you can put a story where like the heroes all died, right? Like this might have been like some terrible story that happened, and then you can frame it as like, well, what if they didn't? Like, can you do it? Can you as the player save them? Which I thought was a lot of fun.
So that's like is that like Sugarman? Does that ends poorly, doesn't it?
Yes. The mission is a success, but everyone dies pretty much.
Yeah. And I think something similar to Abyss, like I think they get him, but someone ends up paying the price, don't they? Sort of thing,
someone dies inside him.
Yeah, and speaking of something else that's coming out with season 3 is these like campaign ideas, and you, like your goal behind Age of Apocalypse, I think you want to do like a campaign sort of with it, don't you? And so you've got stuff like that where like depending on things happening in the scenarios, they sort of like branch the story or make characters unavailable and things like that, don't they? Yeah, that's cool. That's another cool way of like helping to sort of tell that story of the comic and then have that what if thing, because it's like, well, what if this character dies instead? And then so yeah, that's cool. Awesome.
That's been neat.
Yeah.
And then good.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, the other thing that that I think has been really helpful is like members of the community kind of finding artists that are able to really bring this to life, because you know when you've got a comic book photo, it doesn't look like Marvel United, right?
No,
it doesn't quite get the job done. And so we've been really fortunate with I had Nico Moose made that Mikhail for me, which was fantastic. It's been great. And then I was able to luckily, actually, really, I just had a sculptor reach out to me saying, you know, hey, did you want me to turn this into a 3D figure? And I was, yes, absolutely. And that's working those things in tandem is really nice because, you know, now I've got, I just had Erwin Thunder make me a Sugarman art, which is so comic accurate. I'm so happy with it. And so then I'll be able to now make a figure that'll look just like in that same pose, you know, that it'll look just like that. And so that's something that Marvel United does. You know, when you have the art for the character, that pose that the figure has looks just like it.
They're the same, right? Yeah. Let me I'll just while you're talking about that, I would never trust AI with chibi art. It can barely get regular humans right. It might fix the hands though. Let me see. I'll just see if I can bring up share screen. We did this once successfully, so we should be able to do it again. Okay. So is this viewable for folks? They can sort of see this. If we go back, where was I? Maybe I'll close. Maybe I'll go back to this window. And if I go back to Homebrew Marvel, so to show people what you're talking about here, if we go to your Age of Apocalypse here, we've got, this is the page that has the Age of Apocalypse expansion. So all of the stuff linked to that that Dave's made is in this particular page. It's nice and easy to find. And you can see here, so this is, I think this is original art from the Marvel United game here for Abyss. Is that right? Then we've got, now is this Nico Moose or is this Erwin Thunder who's done, I think this might be Nico Moose who's done Mikhail, right? Looks fantastic in the chibi style. And then we've also got, now this is the one you were just talking about, right? The brand new Sugar Man with his comic accurate costume with his little buttons on his on his little, what is that? Suspenders or something?
It's like a leather suspender.
Yeah, very cool. So this is the art here, and then if we go into it's Mikhail, isn't it? If we go into Mikhail. If we scroll down here, so this is it. You get a better shot of Mikhail there. So Nico Moose's great artwork there. Then if we scroll down here, this is, so can people see this? This is the screen showing, isn't it? So this is the figure that Dave has had designed. And now, Dave, do you want to do the honors with the sculptor's name? We've been practicing
this one. Daniel Bandoli, who reached out to me in the Facebook Marvel United Facebook page, because I was saying, you know, I don't know anything about getting 3D sculpts made, and he reached out, and it's been fantastic working with him, and he's really captured the 2D art into 3D. I'm really pleased with that. I've also got a second base, although we're still tweaking it to get it a little bit more visibility, but the idea is that since when you're in Mikhail's presence, you can't use heroic actions. I have like a no symbol that's kind of like out of like metal, like that like wreckage material, no, and then you slide in a heroic action token behind it to remind you, hey, when he's there, you can't do heroic actions, which is another fun idea.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So, and I remember seeing that, and the way that that's like your current design for it is still pretty cool. Like you've got like it's sort of like a no symbol, and it's like rivets. You know, it looks like a metal sort of bit of wreckage on the ground sort of thing. It looks cool sort of thing. So, yeah, that's really cool. And so I guess it's one of those things. It's like all of this. Like, you know, I never would have thought I'd be learning how to use Photoshop or, you know, then InDesign and things like that. And so this sort of, it's almost like a hobby in itself, this, you know, homebrew designing. I shouldn't say almost, it pretty much is, isn't it? And like it's leading us to things like learning about how to sort of work with, because it's something I, you know, maybe if you know, people will be working in certain industries where they're doing this all the time, but I've never sort of worked with artists or sculptors before and things like that. And you know, it's good to be able to give them, what's this say? Nah, it's a job. Yeah, it's a job. Oh man, well, no, it can't be a job because then we'll get shut down because we can't be making money. But yeah, but I'm putting all the work in though, right? Oh man, but that you know, that's a cool quick aside. That's another thing too. Like it's a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. It's a labor of love, and it's a lot of fun. But it also is a lot of work. So I love being able to get the word out there, trying to sort of like just get this to reach, you know, as many people as I can, sort of thing, so that people can try out you guys' stuff. And I sometimes get a bit like, you know, and it's fair enough, and it's understandable, but you know, I often see these comments like, oh yeah, like and in fact sometimes it's good, right? Because they'll say like, oh, I never look at homebrew, or like, oh, I'm wary of homebrew or whatever, but this I'll look at. You know, you know, if they're you know, if you or Kanji or someone puts a thing up, I'll sometimes see posts that say like, oh, you know, I wasn't really into homebrew, but wow, this looks good or whatever. So and that's good that, you know, we're reaching them and getting people to sort of have a look at it and stuff like that. But I also sort of feel sad that sometimes people just have this sort of negative view of it as being dodgy or, you know, not very well designed and things like that. And I think all I could do is recommend, you know, try it out, because there's such good quality work being done here, and I love this part of it too, where we can support 2D and 3D artists and things like that as well. And sometimes they've been kind enough to sort of, you know, come in and, yeah, if they're fans or whatever, they'll come in and they'll help out as well. And you know, Minis from Mars are a great little company.
Yeah.
Love supporting them as well with their stuff, and Dan's been really helpful for me sort of with stuff as well, so that's been really good too. But there's a guy in the Discord as well, who's gone through and put a bunch of art together. Charles, I think.
Oh yeah, Jasper KC is his handle.
Jasper KC, yeah, and he has done a whole bunch of art where he's taken the existing Marvel United art and sort of modified it, tweaked it for characters that don't exist. So he's built like a Conan out of what looks to me like maybe Doc Samson and things like that. And I've been able to use that art for the Conan cards and things like that. And I think that's really good. Like I know that we've sort of got some of the different One Piece, My Hero Academia, you know, different worlds that we're creating. We've decided to go, because they're sort of like a separate IP. We've sort of decided to go in a different direction with the art, like so they're not all of those things have chibi. So if that's something that, you know, you really love the chibi stuff in Marvel United to be aware of, and some of these other homebrew things, we don't have the chibi style. But even with that, I like to try and sometimes it's hard, like, you know, I'll be getting art from different places for those cards and stuff, and sometimes it's really hard to trace back who the actual artist is. Sometimes it'll be someone just sharing someone else's art on like DeviantArt and stuff like that. But wherever possible, I think it's important to try and like highlight who the artists are and give them that shout out and that sort of stuff as well. And I really appreciate that in the Photoshop and InDesign templates, where there's that ability to put in like a credit for like the designer or credit for the artist and that sort of thing as well, which is good too. So yeah.
And one thing I wanted to mention is that I've been really pleased with my interactions with a lot of the artists. Is like, you know, with like Daniel Bandoli, for example, like I really wanted to make sure that I could make everything that we're presenting like just available. And the link doesn't take it to something yet. But or I think it takes it to his art station. But eventually we're going to have a link, and you'll have a free download of the 3D print files for retail. So that way, there's no like gatekeeping. I just want everyone to be able to have access to this. And
that's I think that's another thing too. It's an interesting sort of thing that we're in with this, because we are dealing with stuff that's IP based and stuff like that as well. So we want to be like I think I think definitely, like, if we're creating these things for our homebrew designs and things like that, it's it's definitely good to support like the artists, if we're commissioning like this stuff for Mikhail and things like that. But also too, like when we're sort of putting this stuff out there, we don't really we personally, I think we don't really like the idea of like selling this stuff, because it's not really our IP. I think we're sort of relying on the goodwill of the bigger powers that be out there, that know that this stuff is like fan based, and it's out there to generate support and stuff. We're not meaning to sort of like make money off their property, their intellectual rights and stuff. And I think it's still probably a little bit sort of gray, because we don't necessarily have the full permissions and stuff. But I think it's hopefully people sort of see it in the light that we're sort of trying to create this as a fan base sort of thing. And I think that's important too, like making it available, like you said, so they can get the print files for free and that sort of thing as well. We're not sort of profiting from it, sort of thing. Happy to sort of support the artists and stuff that are making the stuff for us, but we ourselves don't want to sort of create a product out of it, sort of thing. So yeah, hopefully that comes across okay, sort of thing. But let me just get I'll see if I can bring myself back so I can see myself again. Whoa. Stop sharing. There we go. There we yeah, but that's a good point too. So so many helpful folks. And this is the thing, isn't it? Like, all these people are really generous of their time and help and that sort of stuff. Jasper, he did so much work there and put it all up there for people to use. And so hopefully he's getting a kick out of seeing people start using his designs and stuff. So hopefully he likes seeing the Conan one there, because as soon as I saw Big Head Chibis do the Conan model, I was like, oh yeah, sweet. I know I've seen the Conan chibi art before, sort of thing. So I went in and had a look there. So that was cool. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to talk about today is just some of the fun stuff sort of coming up down the track, with the new season. And we've sort of mentioned a little bit before, like, and the guys in the chat have been saying, they're looking forward to everything coming out, sort of thing. But I guess, well, let's maybe sort of go beyond. Let's start with this. If we go beyond season 3, and it's looking like, signs are pointing to like a DC United, but I don't have a lot of knowledge about DC. I'm not as so personally, I'm not as excited about it, because I don't even know if I'm gonna get it. It's definitely exciting for like those folks who really want big into DC, and because it sounds like an awesome thing, right? Like, you could build a universe just as big as Marvel United, and then hopefully have them interchangeable and stuff like that. So it's definitely exciting in that sense. But I feel like I don't have a lot of stuff to talk about with it, because I don't really know anything about it, sort of thing. But I thought if you're happy to talk about Marvel United possible season 4, which I don't know, I hope DC United doesn't knock Marvel United season 4 off the
I don't think that's likely. I think what is most likely that they'll see how well DC United does. But I think as some people, I think maybe on the Discord or the Facebook we're talking, the signs are pretty good that season 3 was designed alongside season 4. There's a pretty good, it seems pretty likely, because there's a lot of things where they were like half built in season 3. You've got teams that are like still missing people, and it's like there's no way that they were like, oh well, maybe people will be happy with this team that's missing like 3 members. There's no way that that's the case. So I think that they planned it, especially when you got certain people that are like Cinch. from Generation X. Like, he's a big deal X-Man now. Like, he's a main X-Men book runner. And so I think that a lot of those characters were left out for their partner in season 4. But I think the fact that they're already talking about a new Marvel United, and talking very lightly at the end of Deceased, the Kickstarter, they had a thing that said, "We'll see what's next in the master plan," which is the tagline for Marvel United, and has been for years now. So that was definitely pointing to the next Cool Mini or Not project is going to be a United game. But, you know, is it time for Marvel United Season 4 while Season 3 is still, you know, not delivered yet? I'm thinking probably less likely. I think it's more likely we're going to see DC or some other IP come in. But I really think, you know, it's very reasonable for them to have, you know, if they're only doing one a year or maybe one every other year or whatever, you know, slotting in another United game because they have that engine into other IPs, kind of filtering in between, because maybe someone doesn't want Marvel, you know, but they'll pick up the DC one, or, you know, whatever other IP that they might jump into.
So for Syn there, I think we've answered. Syn was sort of asking DC United with a question mark. So I think you've sort of answered, you know, why we're talking about DC United is this kind of hint that they sort of put out after, like, DC's already got a lot of people talking anyway. The fact that, well, they've got the DC IP sort of thing, and then at the end of that campaign, when they put a Marvel United, not a Marvel United, but like a United tagline in there, that's got everyone thinking, So that I think you've done a good job explaining that. And then Nelly's put a good point there too. Like, they introduce these, not just like teams that are only sort of half built, but they introduce these concepts like companions and campaigns and stuff that seem like, oh man, there could be a lot more of those sort of thing, you know, like, so yes, that's,
I think one thing that I think was overlooked a lot in season 3, because it was part of an expansion that people might not have been that excited about, was the complications deck. And that seems really expandable, because it's basically, you shuffle it into the master plan deck, and then when you see one on top, that pops up, and now we have an extra thing we have to deal with in addition to those things. And the fact that that was Kickstarter exclusive, I really would expect we would see something like that for retail.
Okay, that's interesting too. Well, so with all of that in mind, I thought maybe we could have a bit of a quick talk about, like, maybe, you know, what are you know, put you on the spot here, but, like, you know, let's go through like 5 heroes. Should we not heroes? Should we limit it to characters, or should we limit it to just things you're looking? Maybe we'll just say 5 things you're looking forward to in a season 4. That way you can cheat and sort of combine a few characters into a set or something like that if you like. But or should we be hard and make it characters? Maybe we'll make it characters, but feel free to answer however you like, really. But and if you're in the chat there, if you want to, and even if you're watching this later on and you want to put down what are you looking forward to in a hypothetical season 4, and if you're looking for ideas, definitely check out Andrew Fantasia's series of videos. He's done a big thing of DC United seasons that he'd like to see. Plus, he's also done a Marvel United season 4 as well. So definitely check that out. We know his answers because he's given us like 100 different characters he wants. But what would be your first thing you're looking for? Like, what's the biggest thing that's missing?
Well, so obviously, I really was distraught over the absence of Sugarman and Abyss and Mikhail. And as proud as I am of my designs for them, that would be the first thing that I would say, you know, please, Cool Mini or Not, make this, because as much as I'm really proud of the designs and I think they're really excellent, you know, I'm actually, I'm tooting my own horn saying this, but I think the designs are really good. I'm really happy with them. And I would be happy for more people to get into the homebrew scene and try them out. But, you know, realistically, that's just not that. You know, it's a very small population of us that see them, and these are characters that I think are really interesting, and not just the characters themselves, because Sugarman is just a little monster, right? He's a little monster overlord of a prison, but the story that he's in with the Generation Next characters and stuff, you know, that was a really I don't know. It was a formative comic for me. You know, it was a big deal for me. And so like being able to have that be more exposed and like, hey, people should check out this comic maybe. I think would be great. And so that's got to be my first. You know, the characters that I feel like were so important and are missing that I had to like push them out myself. Okay, that's got to be first.
So basically like the age of apocalypse dudes that we're missing, sort of thing. Yeah. All right, so well, okay, so in that vein, because that's an important thing, isn't it? It's like we've created these things, but it's like, so it's then like if they get announced that they're making the actual version of it, it's like oh, but it's like, oh, also awesome, you know, because it was I think Rick Nichols, he'd done a really cool and there's a few people who had been doing homebrew way back in the day. He'd done some like the lizard and that sort of thing, and now they're doing a lizard, and I don't know if it's Rick Nichols. There was someone else who did a lizard as well, but one of the designs that was on BGG looks very similar. And I don't mean like they've copied it, but I just mean like they've used that idea of like the canisters or like the mutagen things that you have to go around and collect or protect or whatever it is, sort of thing. So but yeah, that whole idea of like, oh, you know, maybe we've inspired them enough to to make an official version, sort of thing. But in that vein, I'm going to say my first one is brute force, because I would love to see an official brute force made. I think we did a really fun job making a brute force series of heroes and getting to play around with some fun modes and that sort of stuff. And now that's an example of a Marvel United. I was trying to think. Oh, I think all my Marvel stuff I've used chibi stuff, but I didn't use chibi stuff. I used comic art and stuff like that for the Marvel for the brute force guys, sort of thing. But we've got some really cool models for them. We've got and chibi models at that sort of thing. We've got the decks and we've got like the Voltron mode and all, you know, Deadpool Voltron mode and all that sort of stuff. And as much as like I'm really happy that we did that, I would be over the moon if we could get an official set of brute force. I think it's pie in the sky stuff because they're so niche, but and another reason why I'm really happy we've gone ahead and, you know, Thanos'd it and done it ourselves. But I think that'd be the thing I'd be most excited for, sort of thing. I realized we're doing this the wrong way around. We should have started at 5 and gone down to 10 to 1, but
oh yeah,
still, it's going to get less exciting from here. But what's another thing you're looking forward to? Or what's the thing that's more exciting than you've just done? We'll just pretend that we're going down.
Let's see. So after Age of Apocalypse, there's a couple other like big events in the Marvel universe that I think are really good. Arguably more important than Age of Apocalypse would be the House of X. That comic run was in 2018, and it's like a revamp essentially of the X-Men line. It's not really like a rebooting or anything, but it retconned a few things and it kind of established like a new status quo. And there's some new character design. So like, you know, Xavier walking around with a Cerebro helmet that he wears is a new design, which is fun. Does
that keep him walking? Like, is he not able to walk without it, sort of thing? Or
so Xavier's evolved a few times over the years. And I think at this point he has been without a wheelchair more than he's been in a wheelchair.
Oh, really? I can't call him Wheels anymore.
Yeah. So he is no longer unable to walk, and so and I can't remember what the most recent iteration of that is. Sometimes it's like alien medicine, and sometimes it's, you know, being reborn or something like that. But there's a couple characters that, you know, didn't really get to shine as much as maybe they could have in their original run, and now in this new iteration we're able to bring people back, which is the big thing for the mutants.
Hey, that's a good thing here. Sin's just said, I'm going to cheat and say Amalgam Comics, because they are both DC and Marvel. Dark Claw for the win. So good point. Dark Claw sounds cool. I have no idea who that is, but sounds good.
So I think know who Dark Claw is. So Dark Claw, I believe, is the combination of Wolverine and Batman.
Wow.
So Amalgam was like, here's a character that's like taking two other, or maybe more sometimes, characters and mashing them together. An amalgamation of Marvel and DC.
Awesome, because that's what I thought that sounded like, and I reckon that sounds like an absolutely awesome expansion. If they do a DC United and have one of the, like, maybe even have it as the Kickstarter, a Kickstarter exclusive set, and call it like Amalgam Comics or Amalgam United or whatever, and have that set have a bunch of, because a lot of people have been asking, like, oh, if we get DC United, I really want it to be cross compatible with Marvel United, and have, so you can have Batman and Spider-Man teaming up against Red Skull or whatever. Wouldn't it be cool also to take that to obviously where DC and Marvel have taken it to its extreme, was actually merge the characters together and have like a set of those cool ones. So I'm sure in that Amalgam Comics there's some really iconic sort of characters. I guess like Darkclaw sounds pretty iconic, being like Batman and Wolverine and stuff. So like I bet there's a bunch of really cool characters like that. So a box full of those sorts of characters would be a really fun way to have really mash it up together, like actually mash it up in the same model sort of thing. So that's a great one, Sin. Now I've actually got a top thing I'm looking forward to in DC United is Amalgam Comics. So do Simon have the IP for DC, Marvel, and Amalgam Comics? Well, I guess time will tell. Yep, you got Doctor Strange Fate. Oh, so I wonder, I saw a thing on Facebook the other day where it had a bunch of these characters who were all like drawn in, like, comic characters, and they were all like mash up looking characters, and I thought it was someone just having fun, just a funny poster thing. But now I'm wondering if they were actually Amalgam comic characters.
Might have been.
That's interesting. Yeah, might have been. Yeah, okay, that's cool. But still, I'm gonna give the idea to Sin. I reckon. Well, I'm gonna say Sin came up with the idea first, so that's cool. Not this random on the internet. So yeah. Okay, so now I'm gonna go with something not quite as exciting, but this is, if I had to go with like, who's the character that, to me, I'm just missing the most. Like we talk about those teams, like who doesn't fill out the teams and things like that. The one I'm looking forward to the most, I would really like to see, because I'm so happy that I got a lot of, like, I feel like Marvel United has been very aimed at me, like especially season 3, man. Like it was like they went, oh, this guy who like only read like the Executioner song and that's about all they read. they pretty much nailed that sort of range of characters. So we've got so many of the cool characters from X Factor and X Force and this and that, and I still remember that big fight between sort of like a mix of the X-Men like blue team and the X Factor guys trying to capture the X Force guys when they thought that Cable had done the assassination sort of thing. And the one guy that's missing from that I think everyone else is there. The one guy that's missing is Rictor, and I'd really love to see Rictor. Plus, he sort of features in the, when he's a kid, he features in the X Factor storyline.
So speaking of Rictor has become a pretty big deal in the House of X era.
Yeah.
So I think it would make sense in that box, actually, if we wanted to see him. He's got a new costume. But
so that's where I'd be like, nah. Well, no, that's where I'd be like, no, this we need him in that box. We need him in the House of Xbox, and then to make people annoyed, we need a dupe of him in the same season in the promos box where he's wearing his X-Force costume, because we've got to have some dupes, right, to get people talking, and so that'd be fun. So okay, so I've got Rictor there. Okay, interesting. What else are you looking forward to? I think we're on number 3.
So another one, and this is definitely not on my top of the list, but it's one that I think would be well worth exploring, is the Eternals. I just read it was a trade paperback called The Eternals by Kieran Gillen, and that I had to read it because I'm reading the current X-Men run, and there's this story called Judgment Day, which Judgment Day is the box that I would make that an expansion.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. But basically, the Eternals, you get a good run right before that with Kieran Gillen's run that is basically Thanos has come back, and he's going to try and become the leader of the Eternals. Like he's trying to like take over the Eternals. And that was a pretty good run, and it's kind of necessary because the fallout of that leads into Judgment Day. So my thought would be that you'd have all the eternal characters that people saw in the movie. You'd have all of them as like playable heroes, and then some of these very dark characters from Judgment Day. So there's this one guy named Uranos the Undying, and he is a scary dude, and he presents pretty strongly in the Judgment Day story. And he'd be a great villain.
Cool.
Because there's a couple others, so it'd be fun to see all those Eternals characters, which, you know, if you've seen the movie, you probably want those figures, right? And then tying it to a comic, because I didn't love the Eternals movie storyline, but the comic was really, really fun, and I do recommend that for sure.
Yeah, oh, that's cool, and it sounds like a way to sort of bridge the MCU crowd and the comic crowd as well, and sort of bring them together, sort of thing, and have fans of both wanting to get that set. That's an interesting one. Sin said here that Penance was Penance ever included, and he said previously Speedball, but so who am I thinking of? I thought Penance was like.
So you're thinking of M.
There's M. Who's the one in the that they released? Who's like, is that M? And then she was in the body of another person who.
Yeah. And so pretty complicated backstory on her, but yeah, right now she can basically transform into her Penance form, but that's a different character than who Sin's talking about.
Right. Okay.
So Sin's talking about Speedball, who I think was a New Warrior, if I'm remembering correctly. Which the New Warriors would definitely be a group that I would love to see.
Yeah, cool. Just saw that. Hey, Kanji, how you going?
Hey,
hey, welcome. Are you still having your what's it called? Your Gamerpalooza thing with the guys at Co-op Guild? Are you still visiting? I think he's had a pretty cool weekend, lots of gaming and stuff. There's been caused the beginning of Civil War, because is that something like Speedball went bouncing around and he accidentally killed a bunch of people or something? Or
yes,
that's right. I think I remember reading that when I was years ago playing Marvel Legendary, and Speedball was in that, and I was like, who is this guy and who are these new warriors or whatever, and I looked them up on the wiki and or the on the internet and found him. So no, Steve. Oh no, really? Oh man, Kanji's just said Steve got COVID, so he left. Oh, what a bummer. Well, seems like you got a fair few games in though. I guess you got that. I think you played Marvel Zombies and a few others and stuff like that. But I'm sorry to hear that. So hopefully Steve is recovers well and isn't feeling too bad, and hopefully Kim's all right as well. So hopefully he's back on his feet soon. But that's a bummer. So Nitro went mega kaboom. That's no good. It's all bad news. There's COVID and Speedball blowing up and stuff. We got MU in played. Yeah, that was cool. Did you get to see that, Dave?
I haven't seen it now.
They played through like 4 of them. They played all the Brotherhood and then and Silver Surfer. So, folks, I won't be ashamed if you leave the stream and go watch that video, or maybe go watch it after the stream. But Co-op Guild has a really cool video where they play through 4 of Kanji's design, which is, I think, the best way to do it, Kanji, because you pump out like 3 a day sort of thing. So if you're going to showcase them on videos, we've got to get through like 4 a day so we can catch up sort of thing, because you're putting out too many. I definitely want to play. I don't know if I'm allowed to announce the name of the new guy that you're doing yet, but definitely want to play him soon too, which is cool. All right, so that sounds like that's a good one. All right, so my number 3. I don't know why we're numbering these, because we're not really going in a proper order. But the thing I'd like to see, this is kind of a collection one, would be going back to that X Factor stuff. There's a bunch of those characters I'd love to see. This is like no one else in the world would want these, but I would love it for my the fact that I painted my first class X-Men to look like the original X Factor guys in their uniforms. The fact that I've made Cameron Hodge. I'd love to see all those little teenagers that they were looking after. So I'd love to see Leech and Artie, and there are some cool models that have been put out by a few different people on Etsy and stuff like that for that. I think Marvelous Custom Print have done an Artie and a Leech, but I'd also love to see Skids and Rusty and Rictor in his. So we could have a third, because we really need a third Rictor too, because he's such a popular. And especially his, like, as a teenager, where he's just a nondescript kid in like a t-shirt and pants that can make things shake. I think that'd be a great model. I think everyone would be lining up to get that one. I think we should make it a Kickstarter exclusive, I think. But yeah, so the X Factor kids that they were babysitting, and maybe chuck in as a Kickstarter exclusive model, maybe a Caliban, because he was hanging out with them as well. Yeah.
So I think that crew was originally called the Exterminators.
Well, that's what they call. Yeah, they called themselves. So they when they were going out and acting like the baddie mutants, they called themselves the Exterminators, and at the same time they called themselves X Factor when they were in their disguise as like the Ghostbuster, mutant busters, and they'd go back and forth between. They'd be doing these really dodgy things with, like, hey, we're the Exterminators, you better call the cops. Oh, and then they'd go back just to sort of try and make sure that no one thought that they were, put two and two together and realize that, hey, the guy with the big bird wings is like.
But no, the kids though, Rusty and Skids and stuff. They took that name in the comics at one point.
Well, I was going to say, I think that's where they got it from. I think because the X Factor guys had been calling themselves that, I think then the kids, I think as a callback to that, I think they called themselves the Exterminators. Yeah. That's cool. So yeah, we could have the Exterminators box. That'd be cool. And chuck
I like it.
So that'd be cool. Sin says, a listener. So White Rabbit and Walrus. Okay. Sin's coming up with all the characters.
Interesting.
Sounds like a through the sounds. Yes, I was going to say, sounds like a Alice in Wonderland crossover. That's cool. So what would you say is I think we've got two more. I think you're on number 4.
Two more. Okay.
Yeah, 2 more.
So well, definitely we already have one character that I would say is already done, which is Blink, but the rest of the Exiles crew, so Mimic.
Oh yeah, Exiles.
Nocturne, Exiles would definitely be another batch for people that don't know. They're like sliders, but with superhero powers. They basically go between universes and fix problems.
And did the Exiles, was there like a bit of a storyline where the Exiles got beaten up by the upstarts, maybe as like one of their big dastardly deeds that they did? They like to earn a lot of points with the game master or whoever was in charge of those upstart guys. Did they sort of like wreak a bit of havoc on the Exiles, or is it a different team?
I don't think so, because the upstart started in like 91, I think, when X-Men 1 was released, and the Exiles didn't get introduced, I think, until 2008. Maybe.
Right. Okay. So maybe I'm thinking of a different team. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm trying to drop some Marvel lore there that I do. Maybe it was maybe it was Hellions or something. I don't know.
Yeah, they murdered them. That was sad.
Oh, maybe that's who. Maybe it was the Hellions. Yeah, that's probably who I'm thinking of. Oh, bummer. Yeah. It's like, it sucks when you got like a cool, like a favorite team, and then they decide, oh, wouldn't it be a cool creative thing to do, like just to kill this whole like team? It's like, oh no. So I remember G.I. Joe. Actually, it'd be one of the things I'd love to do. Is like I think I might do, because Andrew Fantasia did he's done his hypothetical seasons and stuff, and he at the end of it he put a call out saying, what would be a hypothetical season you'd love to do? I'd love to do one maybe for G.I. Joe, but particularly like the Marvel comics sort of series. And one of the things I most remember about that was that they just murdered, because G.I. Joe was one of those worlds where, like, the good guys never die, the bad guys are all like stormtroopers or the Vipers, and they always miss them and stuff. But then there was this one particular like little mini series of about 3 episodes or something, where this one Viper with like a heavy machine gun just mows down like eight of the the G.I. Joes and actually kills them, and it was like, oh, it was mind-blowing. So to me as a kid, I was like, this is amazing. It's like traumatizing but amazing sort of thing. I was a little bit older than I was when I saw the Transformers movie. So like Transformers movie, that was just traumatizing. That was like, let's sell some new toys and just traumatize the whole generation of kids. But this G.I. Joe one, I was old enough to think it was gritty and edgy and cool that they killed a bunch of G.I. Joes and stuff. But yeah, poor old Crankcase and Doc. Just I think they were all pinned down or something, and then like Doc pops his head up and says something like "uh-oh" or something like that, and then the guy with the machine gun says, I think his single line was like, you said a mouthful, bub, or something like that, and then just like mows them all down, sort of thing. It was just this brutal, brutal sort of thing. And I'm still thinking about that now. But why was I talking about that now? You'd said that's right. You were talking about how the Hellions got all killed and stuff. Yeah. Okay. So the Exiles would be a cool box. Okay, that's interesting. That the idea of a sliders sort of thing. Maybe they could bring those into the MCU now when we've got all this multiverse sort of stuff going on. If they can slide between universes and stuff. All right. So my second last thing would be, I'd like to see either. I got to choose here, don't I? Oh, okay. I'll go with Morlocks because we've got a few Morlocks already, so I feel like we could build on that. I feel like seeing more of the Morlocks built out would be cool since we've already got Callisto and we've got Marrow. I think it'd be cool to see some characters like Mask. I know we've tried to sort of dabble with making a Mask and stuff down the track and stuff, but some of those guys would be cool. Either that, the other one I was toying with is either like the Marauders or those Reavers, I think. But I think if I had to choose out of those ones, I think I'd like to see some Morlocks. I think they'd be sort of fun. But I think they're kind of like, they're so down and out and sort of trodden upon that I don't know that they'd be that exciting as a box of heroes or something. Maybe, what would be interesting is have like since we've got those pet companions that have been added, maybe another thing they could add in season 4 is the idea of like character bystanders. So instead of having you have civilians, but you could also introduce this thing of like, kind of similar to, I guess, like a Senator Kelly, but something you can insert into any game is have like a box of like bystanders who are these like low level Marvel personalities that don't really warrant a hero, but similar to, I guess, Marvel Zombies, how you have like the bystanders in that, and then like maybe if you are rescuing them, or maybe if you just are shepherding them around, they give you some sort of ongoing boost while you've got them, but they create a bit of a liability or something, like a challenge mode sort of thing. That'd be a fun sort of thing as well.
So I think the pet box is technically the pet companions, and I think the mechanic is called companions. So definitely has the opportunity for us to see other companions that are not pets.
So even just companions where you're not having to rescue them so much, but just that they're there sort of supporting it. That'd be cool as well. Morlocks would be cool for that. What have we got? So Aunt May companion, Mary Jane, place them in a slot like a civilian. So you could even do stuff like that. That'd be cool as well. And then Minis from Mars could make little models for them and stuff if they were going to fit in the civilian slot sort of thing. So that'd be cool. All right. What about you? What's your next one? I've saved my best one for last. I've got a really good one for last.
Man.
So
well, unfortunately, you've given me another idea here.
Oh, no.
So I'm not gonna count this as mine because you mentioned the Marauders and the Marauders leading into Inferno. All that stuff, I think, would be really fantastic.
We could do it because then we can say we had a crossover. Like, isn't that what you're supposed to do?
Okay, that's our crossover for number 2. Okay, so my number 1 is a Hail Mary, and that is the comic that traumatized me as a child. Like your story with the G.I. Joe. Is X-Men 2099. So X-Men 2099 was the first comic I think I'd ever read. And they kill one of them in like the 4th book or something crazy like that. And I was like, what? And I think I stopped reading comics for a while after that, but it still stuck with me. So I still really like the characters there, including the one they killed. So X-Men 2099 would be, I think, a really fun box. And like just a lot of neat characters in that group.
Yeah. It's funny, this childhood trauma we're all going through. Like, I was just thinking about it. Like, one of the things I think that's keeping me from like really investigating diving deeper into doing like a Transformers United is I'm still too upset that all those original guys like the police car Prowl and all that stuff just got blown away. And canonically they're probably dead or something, but like, because I don't know, but Blur and Hot Rod ain't it for me. Like, for a certain generation, I'm sure they're peak Transformers, but for me, nah. It's like it's all those other guys like Jazz and Optimus and all those guys, Ironhide and all that. I think they killed them in the bloody Michael Bay movies too, didn't they? A bunch of them got blown away.
Jazz got killed in the first movie. I think that's the only one I really remember, but yeah.
I think maybe in the second one, I think maybe Ironhide or someone or Ratchet or something got blasted by someone, but don't.
They were trying to traumatize the new generation.
Can't we just have things like kids things where no one ever dies? Yeah. Anyway, all right, that's okay. Good. We had our crossover, so that's good. I think that'd be pretty cool. That'd be pretty cool. This and we know that there's Reavers out there too, like not Marauders, but we know there's Reavers because I think some of the henchmen have. Yeah. She has those guys, and I actually remember that. I think the cartoon. I don't think I remember the comic, but I think I remember the cartoon where Lady Deathstrike takes the Reavers into the sewers, is hunting down someone. I forget who she's hunting, but all right, probably Wolverine, right?
Yeah.
All right, save my last. Okay, so this is the one that I think would make. It's a great pick and would make season 4 a shoe-in. It would guarantee them printing money. This is another Havok dupe. I think we need another alternate version of Havok because I think he went down so well with his leather jacket, his X Factor jacket. So we've got his Black Bolt costume, or it's kind of like a cross between Black Bolt and Bullseye, right? His original costume.
Mm-hmm.
Then we've got his cool super cool dude jacket with his giant lapel and stuff and his coiffed hair. Now we need maybe I need to add an add-on, maybe an extra one, because what we need his Genosha where he was like brainwashed or something and he was like traffic cop Havok. Remember he was like one of the Genosha guards? We need that Havok because that Havok looked cool. That Genosha uniform, Havok in it, and him being like the bad guy, and it was so tragic because he was like working with them, and then he sort of working with the bad guys, and then he came back around and stuff. Like we need that Havok because I think that would sell like hotcakes. I think it's not niche at all, and I think we would get a lot of people buying the series for that. But what that would do is that would lead into we could do a Genosha set, and we could have like the big gross Cameron Hodge in his big mojo looking cybernetic thing, and we could have the guy you could have a scenario around like turning other team members into mutates and all that sort of stuff. Is that what they were called, mutates, when they sort of had their personalities erased or something like that? They were turned into like slaves. I forget what they were. Yeah, anyway, like that was the whole thing. Like they were like capturing mutants, and like they had this guy, like this scientist who they were getting to turn the mutants into like these like brainwashed sort of slaves and things like that. And I think maybe Storm got turned into one for a while, and maybe Wolfsbane as well. I shouldn't. Man, I'm spoiling. I shouldn't get into all that, should I? I shouldn't actually go into the details. I'm spoiling these things for people who want to go and read them. But yeah. So from that whole awesome comic series, that whole Genosha arc, I think the one thing we need is Havok in his Genosha uniform. I think that'd be really cool. So that's my last pick. What about you? What's your last pick?
I did X-Men 2099, but can I pick another?
You went first. That's right. Oh, sorry, you did go first.
I did. Can I get a zero?
Yeah, go for it. I cheated and I took the Genosha thing with stuff. So yeah, you go. It's our top 6. Yeah, so you go one more.
When I heard about the Age of Apocalypse, there was I also heard about the Generation X comics that were coming, which was like the new Mutants of the 90s, basically. And there was a lead into them. That was this really cool series called the Phalanx Covenant, and I really like that. That's my up and coming project, but that would be a fun one to see because that was the idea was that they were like next generation Sentinels. So Warlock from the New Mutants had died, and they basically, a couple of the humans had like gathered his remains and then used that to like turn some people into techno-organic people that like were like living weapons, and they kind of viewed themselves as the next evolution of Sentinels.
I think I remember
they
this.
Were pretty scary run. Yeah, Cameron Hodge was part of that group.
Yeah. I think I remember that. I don't know if I was reading the comics at the time, but I think I was like aware that was happening. I think there was also that, what was that disease thing that happened? After
the legacy virus.
The legacy virus. I remember that, and I remember the legacy virus and the Phalanx Covenant. Is that what it's called, or
Phalanx Covenant?
Yeah, those are two that I remember, and I think I sort of dipped in and out. I think I was sort of drifting away from that and getting more into playing Warhammer and stuff at the time, getting onto going deeper into my sort of nerdy subculture. But that was that was a cool run, I think. Yeah, that was cool. Awesome. Well, there you go. So we've got some good things, and Syn has said, what about Angela? She was originally a Spawn character. I think I think I know her from Snap. I've got her character card in Snap. She's kind of like, looks like a Valkyrie sort of warrior type thing. Is she? Is that right, Syn? Yeah, I don't know much about her, but I think she might be. Does she have something to do with it? There's another character called Sarah, Sera or something, or Sarah. Maybe it's like a play on Seraphim or something like that. So I'm wondering if those two have something to do with each other, because I thought like they looked like their costumes and their get up and stuff looked kind of similar or something. But maybe I'm off track with that. But well, thank you very much, Dave. That was very cool. It was cool to have a chat about all the things we're sort of hoping to see in a season 4 sort of thing. Maybe let's go. What's as a last little thing, because I probably we probably should shut down pretty soon here. I think my daughter's going to be getting back soon too, so I'm gonna have to look after her. But they've gone out swimming today. I was going to say maybe we should just talk about like what's one thing, or the thing that you're looking forward to. Because I think I've seen some posts like this on Facebook and stuff where people have talked about like, what are you most excited to open up and start playing with? I could probably make a bit of a guess about what you'd probably start with, but
you're probably right.
What's the thing that you're really excited to dive into with it when season 3 finally arrives?
So definitely, like, the new mechanic wise thing would be the campaigns, and in particular, of course, the Age of Apocalypse one.
Yeah.
But there are, there's a couple of stretch goal heroes that I'm really excited for. Some of the Generation X characters. That blew me away. That made the 24-hour mark for me, was when they announced them. I was like, oh man, it's happening.
That'd be cool. Sorry.
How about for you? Yeah.
For me, I think it's one of those ones. It's hard, right? Because you're like, oh, this definitely, and then you're like, oh no, but all this other stuff is. But I think if I'm probably pretty excited to try, like you said, like the campaign stuff, right? I think I'd really like to, and I think I'd like to blend a bunch. Like for me, like that Executioner song being such a formative sort of thing, I think I'd really love to pull X Factor Havok out with his jacket, put him together with, because I think that was one of the first battles I did with this current run as well, as I got the X Factor team together. I think I'd like to put them together, play through the Executioner's song, maybe arc with that, and use the team cards with that as well to really get that whole flavor going. Have the X Factor team with their team cards and set them in that universe sort of thing. And then I could maybe sort of even, since it's a campaign, maybe I could even sort of bring in the different teams, for each battle. Actually, that'd be really cool, because the way the comics work, each team was sort of going off and doing their own thing, trying to sort of solve the mystery of who'd shot who'd shot Mr. Burns, who'd shot Xavier. So I think that'd be cool. But if I'm honest, like, what's my first thing I want to really play with in that? I think I really want to play against one of those villains that really looks like they play around with like a storyline or something. So maybe like a US Agent or Daken or something like that. I think that's, or even the Cabal with what's his name? Not Iron Patriot. Is it
Oh
Iron
yeah,
Patriot?
Iron Patriot. Yep.
Oh, yeah, Iron Patriot. He's got that Cabal mode as well. So something like that, I think I'd really love to play. And then of course I'm forgetting that Galactus exists too, right? When I see that box, I'm probably going to want to play Galactus. But I think really though, I'm more excited. As much as I'm excited for Galactus, I think I'm more excited for US Agent, and just to see what a game looks like where the villain is placing hero cards in the storyline, something like that. That'd be really fun.
So I just realized, going back to when you mentioned the Morlocks, and I thought of the Marauders, Mutant Massacre would be an expansion, right?
Oh
The
yeah,
Morlocks and
yeah, yeah.
the Marauders.
And the
Yeah.
Marauders, yeah. So you get that way, we could get them both in. Yeah, so that's what we're gonna do. We just gotta come up with, okay, what's the story?
Find the story where we get all the characters we want together.
Yeah. And that's so cool that that's what they've kind of done with season 3 at least. They put those storylines together and stuff, which is cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Dave. It's been
one more thing I want to propose to you.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
What is one IP that you would be really excited to see an official United for?
There's so many, right? Like, do you mean of the ones that we're already working on, or like one that we're not?
One that hasn't been touched, ideally.
One that hasn't been touched.
Totally new, but that you think Cool Mini or Not could get the rights for.
Okay, because I was going to say that the big one, the very first one I ever thought of, like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if they did this IP, was G.I. Joe. Because I thought, because at the time, I wasn't aware that IDW had bought G.I. Joe or something like that, and Marvel no longer had them. So I thought, well, they've already got the Marvel license, G.I. Joe, bam, like, you got so many heroes. And I realized that, okay, there's not a lot of villains, because most of the villains are like all the different henchmen or whatever, the thingies. But G.I. Joe would be the big one for me. But I don't know that they would get.
I think that's possible.
Not impossible for them to get their license, but I think G.I. Joe for me would be the big one. I sort of half mentioned one there, but I'm too traumatized to talk about it. But G.I. Joe would be the big one, I think, for me. Yeah. Since we're already working on One Piece and all that sort of stuff. But
for me, the one I would love to see them do would be a lead into the Masters of the Universe, which they already have. Is the new Netflix She-Ra Princesses of Power, because that's a game that, like, it's weird to me that there are no games or figures for it, because in the show they play like an RPG basically when they're like planning out a battle, so they've got little figures and everything, and I'm like, this is like so obvious, why doesn't this exist? And United would be definitely the way to do that.
Very cool. I think anything like She-Ra, and in fact, as soon as you go into like Master of the Universe anyway, then you can pretty much, you're open to, like, you can do a season on She-Ra, or expansion on She-Ra. You can even do like the how they've done with Marvel Zombies, where they've got like the zombies mode and the thingy mode. You could do like the She-Ra mode and the He-Man mode or whatever. That would be a cool universe as well. Actually, I think I've pondered Master of the Universe before. I think because I realized that Simon have done Master of the Universe, right? Like, they've got the license, so they could do that as well. That's
end up late pledging that now that we're talking about that.
Well, no, do you know how they put it on GameFound?
Yeah.
I didn't back it, and then I saw everyone getting it with the previous round, right? And I've wavered. I was like, oh, I should get it. And then GameFound announced, I was like, oh yes, I should totally get it. And at this stage, though, I've been able to hold off. I'm like, you know what? I don't know that I would, but we'll see.
We'll see where we are in a year from now.
Late pledge hasn't finished yet, right? So we'll see what. Because never say never. But I was able to hold off with Deceased, at least. That one I was able to hold off on. Plus, because I knew I'd be getting so much stuff coming out.
Transformers, Nelly's got a very serious suggestion here. Thomas the Tank Train United.
Yeah.
Which is I do kind of like the idea of vehicles like size for these figures, but I don't know about Thomas the Tank Tank Engine.
Who's the really cranky one in Thomas the Tank Engine? He could be like an anti-hero.
Ooh, there you go.
Is it Percy or
I guess they could effectively be locations.
Gordon, maybe Gordon. I think Gordon's the that's true. Have the different train cars and stuff.
And Sin
We've
mentioned
got
Metal Gear. That's a good one too.
Metal Gear,
Transformers.
and then
I would spend
Now
so much money on Transformers. Oh my god.
That's the one that I've got too much trauma for. Like, happy if they make it. I just don't want to make it myself in a homebrew situation because
same, yeah.
It'd be too painful to, try and make a thing for Prowl and just be like, but he's dead.
Well, they reboot the comics every once in a while.
Yeah,
so
that's
probably
true.
alive again.
We need like a House of Krakoa or something where like
there you go.
Yeah, the Transformers just keep getting reborn or whatever, or revived or something. Well, awesome. Well, thank you very much, everyone in the comments there. Thanks for hanging out. And if you're watching this later on, please put the comments in the actual regular comments. If you've got any suggestions or things you'd love to see, or favorite things you're looking forward to, or just questions, if you're wanting to know more about homebrew and you just want to ask some questions or whatever, yeah, definitely do that. But more so than that, take some of the advice we were talking about before and dive into, like, jump into the Discord. There are people there to help you out. Just have a chat with us. We can give you advice and that sort of stuff, and all those resources are there, and they're on the wiki as well and that sort of thing. So just have some fun with it, and yeah, so hopefully that will be pretty cool. Well, Transformers and G.I. Joe are the same. Well, they are too. That was the other thing too. Transformers and G.I. Joe, I remember the comics when they were crossing over and stuff as well. So is that still the case? They're still in the same universe, I guess. So that's pretty cool. I remember when that was first happening in the Marvel comics. It first happened. They merged. So does that mean that Transformers, there was like a series of Marvel comics for Transformers?
Yeah, I think so.
It must have been. Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. The Transformers is an easy one they can get. They've got Marvel. They can do that. Although, is Transformers now jumped to IDW with G.I. Joe? Then I guess if they're in the same universe,
I think ultimately they're owned by Hasbro.
Yeah. Okay. So Simon just need to body up to Hasbro. That's all good. Yeah. Cool. Oh well. Yeah. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Dave. Thanks for being with us today and sharing your knowledge and just tips and insights and things like that as well. But also, like I mentioned before, big thanks to just everything you do for the community and making things accessible for people, inspiring for people, and putting stuff out there so that other people can either access the stuff we're making or can start doing it themselves as well. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So awesome. So I'm sure we'll be back again with another chat at some point. I'd love to get back with Dave again as well. Kanji, who was in the comments, I don't know if he's still there. Definitely love to have a chat with Kanji down the track. NellyNel, I know I've reached out to him and said we should have another chat as well, and maybe get Nor joining in with us as well, and hopefully we can make these a bit of a thing that we sort of do every once in a while and get these homebrew chats happening. But yeah, anyway, well, thank you very much, guys, and we'll see you guys all on the next video. Definitely, if you haven't checked it out, Kuragiri by NellyNel is up. We've got a battle with him. It's a totally legitimate battle that I didn't make any mistakes in. Maybe not. Definitely check the comments. Nelly's put some clarifications in there for me, but it was a really fun battle sort of thing too. And now that it looks like we've got Sugarman's getting a bit of a revamp or a little bit of a glow up with his art and stuff like that. Yeah. And I don't think I've ever played Mikhail on the channel, so we'll have to get some Mikhail stuff happening. I know Norlith's putting out a bunch of really cool characters with Marvel versus Capcom. I don't know if you've seen this, Dave, but he's got this really cool lawyer character from Marvel versus Capcom called Phoenix Wright, and he's got all these cards like Objection and this and that. And there's a really awesome card where I think it's called like the defense rests or something like that, and it's a picture of the character like in the courtroom, and I think She-Hulk's off on the side on one of the benches sort of in the background, but then the defendant is Galactus, and he's all like crouched down in the courtroom, and he's barely fitting in the room sort of thing. So I like the idea that the Galactus is the defense. So looks like a really fun deck of cards to play. So he's been putting a bunch of new characters out there. So looking forward to that too. So anyway, so yeah, lots of good stuff coming. I don't know when. I can never promise a schedule or anything like that. But I'm still on holidays for a little while here, so hopefully we'll get a few more videos out and that sort of stuff. But I'll say goodbye to everyone, and we'll catch you on the next one. Maple Monkey out. See ya.
All right.